Hey guys, it's Senor. Welcome back to TCS Ladder League Week 3 recaps. And this was a great week. And don't forget, I'm also doing the Week 4 predictions after. But yeah, this was another crazy, crazy week. And before I start, I do want to mention I am actually live on Twitch as I'm doing this. So might have some interactive chat. Maybe not. Maybe people don't like me. But I am live on Twitch. So might be some chat involved if you hear me talking to someone random. It's probably a chat message. Um, but yeah, I'd like to start off with the recaps, of course, first. The predictions are actually updated, but I don't want to touch on that yet. Shout outs to, I think, who's leading now? Raffo, congratulations. You are leading that competition. But we're starting out with. I'll say it out loud since I don't have the chat box. Zoda says hi to you too, of course. Shout out to then Zoda. Because we're going to talk about his race first. And that was a crazy race. That was a crazy race. I commentated this one. I had the honor of commentating this one. Um, and man, I guess to start, let's talk about core competence because that was quite an unfortunate turn of events from him. This whole tournament, you can see as far as round one, 250, 250. I know he had some controller input stuff going on, but then he finally got a 234 before this week. Yeah, I was just talking to him about it about the match after the match, and it looked like he was good enough to come back. And honestly, he looked decent in this race, but he misses pod fraud off the bat, which is just automatically it was like a 2.5 minute time loss. But it was something I was like in my head. I'm like, all right, his PB's good enough that he could come back from this. Like I wasn't like it's gonna be a really interesting race now because I thought he was gonna be the favorite coming in just based off of PB, and he was back. Um, and then he it was like a really weird Camino that got him on a bad like cycle and droid factor, and he soft locked the cog, and that was basically it for core. Honestly, after he soft locked and droid factory and went like 5.5 minutes, 6 minutes down, me on commentary, I barely focused on him because it was just like it was one kind of sad, and he was just so far behind. And we had a great race developing between Phantom and Zoda. Um, Zoda almost had a sub 21 episode one. Would have been a 20 if he had no save or had save cancels, of course. But the tournament forces saves, so unfortunately no sub 21. Um, but sub 21 in our hearts. But yeah, that was a really good start. Episode 2 is pretty solid. I'm trying to remember the lead. It was like after episode 1 and 2, 20, 30 seconds, maybe 40 going into 4. Um, Shout outs to Charmander and Nolan, who are also here right now. Nolan, actually, shout out to Nolan because he commentated with me today. We were just talking about that great race, Nolan, between Core, Phantom, and Zoda. But yeah, episode 4, that was kind of where Phantom came back. I'm trying to remember the exact level. I think he passed Zoda. He was very close in DSC. You know, maybe he never passed him, but he was very close. I think by like Rebel Attack, it was really close. Or maybe he even passed him. I think he might have passed him LRT after Rebel Attack. But RTA, since there was a low difference this whole match. And then it was really close in 6. Zoda pulled out some like insane Endor. He hit the trick in Endor, which the first time all tournament that was hit. Well, actually no, second, but first time it saved time. And like I don't even know. Maybe Zoda can inform me what his Endor time was, but he saved like 30 plus seconds on Phantom there, who honestly didn't even look like he had that bad of an Endor. So clearly pretty good. Um, okay, Mikey, we're recording a recap right now. But shout outs to Mikey, who's also here in chat. But yeah, this is gonna be long when I shout out everyone. But yeah, so really good Endor, and then a pretty solid ITDS, which gave him over a minute lead into 3, which at that point I was like, this has gone back and forth. There's a chance Phantom comes back, but I was pretty confident Zoda was going to win. But Zoda had a pretty shaky Chancellor, Grievous, Kashyyyk kind of segment, and that let Phantom back in the race by like 10 seconds or something. So I'm really recapping this race in depth because this was, by the way, this was I'll mention after, but this was definitely match of the week by far because of how this race turned out between Phantom and Zoda. Like all the other races were decent, but this one was just way better than everything else this week because of how close that race was. Because then 3 comes back to like within 10 seconds. And then Phantom has like a disaster Vader where he dies on the house. And then it's back to like 40 seconds into 5. And then it's back to like 20 by the end of Hoth. And by the end of Echo Base, it's a 1 second Phantom lead. So the lead shifts back to Phantom. and then they both have like insane boulders. It's exactly tied out of uh Falcon Flight, jeez. And then Dagobah goes to Fanta by like 15 seconds, and then Zoda has a crazy CCT. Also, I don't know the time on that, but he golds it for himself. I know that much, and then takes a 9-second lead from a 15-second deficit. And then it goes into Bestman on a 9-second gap. And then Bestman was also insanely intense because really bad Boba fight from Zoda, but then he gets like insta door clip, and then he gets the aggros on the troopers, loses his helmet. And even though Phantom didn't have the best Bespin, it was good enough because the aggro or the aggro, and he wins the match, and both get it's a double PB in the tournament. Oh, true, true, yeah. Zoda did get first try fast DB1. I don't think that's been done this tournament yet. I know Justin's been going for it, but I don't think he's gotten first try. Maybe he got that in the race against Evan. I don't think I was keeping too close of attention to that one though. But anyways, yeah. Phantom pulls out a very, very close win in an insanely back and forth race. It just sucks that the LRT and RTA were so separated because it would have been so cool to see them visually actually passing each other, but they were LRT at least, which is the time that matters. So Phantom stays alive. Unfortunately, we see Core and Zoda. Adios. I mean, Core, it's unfortunate, but I think we saw it coming. I think, well, that's the thing is I think Core could have been a threat if he had an extra week to come back because he did get the 34. So it was just like little bad timing for Core. But Zoda finishes off with a 3-minute PB, which definitely is something not to be ashamed about. And he's going to go out of this tournament probably with a smile on his face. Can't complain about that. And Phantom shows up exactly when he needs to. He's had a rough tournament so far, just time-wise. Where is it? 255. Was it? Where's his match? 239, 239. 241. Those times are not cutting it in this match for sure. And he shows up exactly when he needs to, gets a PB with saves, and keeps himself alive, which is great for him. And as the 21st seed, he's already outperformed his seed for sure. And is on to week 4. I guess that match is, since it was the match of the week, I went a little bit long. I'll try to keep it a little bit more brief on these ones, since this has been going for 7 minutes already, and we've recapped one match. Wow. This is not going to be a fucking short recap if I keep up that pace. Anyways, Revelo, Garrison, Twice Light. I watched pretty much this whole race. Garrison, see, once again, Garrison pre-recorded, so there's a different dynamic here with the pre-recording. He starts out relatively strong and obviously has the Xbox advantage. I think from the beginning, Revelo was just beating Twice Light, and he kind of just stayed ahead of Twice Light the whole time and just kept increasing the gap, which honestly I was surprised at. I had Twice Light winning this match last week. And no, I think it was just a bad run from Twice Light. And like, no, like I can't talk bad about it because I'm pretty sure he like missed Spy Fight. And was there a pod fraud issue too? I don't quite remember exactly the issues Twice Light had, but there were some bad issues that put him really far behind really early. And it kept building. But honestly, the big takeaways from this match, Revelo with a really, really strong performance. He actually passes Garrison at the end because Garrison had a wild DVT disaster. So, okay, classic bot. But I'm not talking about Garrison. Once again, I'm live on Twitch again, if you guys don't remember. But yeah, Garrison with the DVT disaster gives Revelo the lead, and honestly, a 234.03 is shout out to Bixel was here too as well. 234.03, which is a great tournament time. Honestly, I'm really, really impressed with that. But from Revelo, and I did not see him. I had him going down, and in fact, he wins the match. Shouldn't talk bad about Revelo again after that one. And Garrison does the job, minus the disaster. That was a good run. But he's going to be in for another challenge next week, I can tell you that much. Twice Light goes down, but I still think he's got a really good chance of fighting in this tournament and staying alive longer. Especially as the 20 seed, and his PB is like a 232 now. He definitely has the chance of staying alive a lot longer. We'll have to see. I'll get to that prediction when I get there. The Hamster Flop Charizard. This is the match I missed a lot of. I missed a lot of because it was at the same exact time as the EJP Menja Blakey Harasmi match. and I was at work, so like I only had the one screen on my phone to watch it on, and obviously I'm not allowed to watch it anyways at work. But I'm kind of a bad boy like that. Okay. But anyways, I know from here's what I heard from the first part. Flup Charizite basically equal. They miss ICS at the same time. Um, and they're basically dead equal until around late episode 3. And this is when I actually caught up on the match. And Hamster, by the way, is absolutely blowing him out of the water. Hamster has gotten a lot of PBs lately. He's been doing really well. I'll touch on that when I get to predictions for next match. But Hamster just did really well, destroyed Charizard and Flup, and then it was really just everyone, all eyes on Charizard Flup for second place in this match. And until early episode 5 is when Flup started pulling away in 5. And kind of like the other matches, Charizard had a lead, I think, in 3 before I came on, but loses that lead to Flup again. Not as late as CCT like the other matches, but Flup gets second place, so moving up with Hamster. And then Charizard, very surprisingly, to the bottom rung. Like, I did not expect him to go to the bottom rung as early as now. I was pretty high on Charizard last week. I think I said he was going to get second and finally get his revenge on Flup, but Flup 3-0 against Charizard. And he goes down to the bottom rung, which will be, like, the bottom rung is going to be so interesting the next 3 weeks. I'll get to that when I get to that, but yeah, for this match, Hamster goes up. Very dominant, decisive performance. Flup. It's not a bad run, but they can definitely improve upon that in the next coming weeks. They're going to have to. And Charizard, just not a great run. Charizard will be back. I know that much. And then this match, which I called the match of the week last week between EJP Man, Blakey, and Erasmi. This one was surprising to specifically, Jesus, because of EJP Man. What a race from EJP Man. I mean, sub 227 and a PB. I was high in EJP Man as my 8 seed, and I even said I thought, I'm like, oh, maybe he won't win this week, but I think he'll be back and win the 8 seed. He just dominated. Absolute domination. Big shout out to EJP Man. I'm glad I have him at least in my top 8, because it looks like he's on his way there. Jablakey, I'm trying to remember, because this was at the beginning of the week. I'm trying to remember exactly the big time loss, but I know it was what was it? Massive multiple minute time loss early on that put him really far back. Was it Pod Fraud? Might have been Pod Fraud. Pod Fraud has been ridiculous this tournament. Come on, guys. Let's just practice that. And in worst case scenario, if you're practicing it and it's not going your way, just do the super safe strat, So, Jablakey down early and Harasmi really held the gap well. And honestly, might not have been the best race for Harasmi, but he holds together well and holds off Jablakey, which I did not think Jablakey was going to go down. I did say last week, barring disaster, it should be EJP Ben Jablakey, but disasters are unpredictable, and Jablakey goes down. Harasmi does enough to stay up, and that will set up both EJP and Harasmi in rung 2. EJP was already in rung 2, but Harasmi in rung 2 as early as week 4 is I'd say surprise, but people were really high on him before the tournament, and I agree, and he's proved himself. 13 seed in rung 2 in week 4. It's pretty damn good. But yeah, moving on, since we're already 13 minutes in, we got to go through all the predictions as well. Evan, Justin, Laser. This was essentially, it went as I expected. Like, this was probably the most chalk match of the whole entire weekend. The whole week. We had Justin take a lead early and pretty much hold it almost the whole match. Evan ended up taking the lead at the end and winning, but I wouldn't say this is like a bad thing for Justin at all. He does his job, he moves up. He doesn't win the race, which, sure, for predictions that might not be great for him, but he does the job, moves up. And honestly, Laser shouldn't even be disappointed with his performance. There was no world where he really won this or moved up. Maybe a multiple soft lock world like core competence or like a Miss Pod Fraud soft lock. But yeah, no. He did his job. Honestly, a 229 is pretty impressive from Laser. That look at that. 229 would have beaten everyone except for EJP Man in the rung below. So people who have Laser as top 8 hopefuls, That's a pretty damn good sign. Seeing Laser getting a low 229, especially in like a high pressure situation, is racing Evan and Justin. You're not probably gonna do as well when you're playing people who are significantly better. Maybe you do better, but yeah. So really, really impressive by Laser. It went to chalk. He went down. I'm sure he was expecting it, but not a bad performance at all. And you know what? Now Rung won, and I'm just gonna say this before I analyze this match because this is the one I was in. Bozo race of the week goes to Rung One. I mean, come on. Um, for me and Jared, I guess. For Frost, he did his job. I mean, no one thought Frost was gonna get the 3 seed. I can tell you that much. Literally no one. In the top 8 predictions, 0 people had Frost as a 3 seed. So even himself, he didn't even put himself as the 3 seed. Actually, let's see how much Frost believed himself. Wait. We can check this live. He had himself as the 5 seed. He didn't even have himself as the 4 seed. Like, he's just like, you know, he didn't even think he was going to outperform this well, but he played a really good, like, 224-34. As much as you might say, oh, it's me and Jared's mistakes that got Frost the 3 seed. Yes, but no, because 224-34 is better than the time Ginger got last week. It's better than the time Evan got this week. It's better than the time Jared got last week. The only 2 times that are better are Zach's 223 and Evan's 223, wherever the hell that is. Yeah, right here. So, like, Frost played really, really well. I wasn't watching the match directly, so I don't know exactly his mistakes or whatnot, but he played really, really well. Very solid time. Very impressive. Well earned 3 seed. And honestly, with how his runs are going offline, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, what am I even saying? I'm not surprised. I already think of him as a contender to win the whole thing, so he's going to be up there as a contender to win the whole thing for sure. As for me and Jared, I know Jared had a disaster on Theed, as I did as well. Jared also had a disaster in Princess, and he had a soft lock on CCT. So a lot of the stuff not really his fault. It was like a button room disaster. I don't exactly remember what happened on Princess, but obviously the soft lock is not. Well, technically it's his fault, as to research recently, but you can't really fault him too much. The soft lock in CCT almost lost him the race, but yeah, I mean, once again, Jared literally. I mean, if anyone hasn't been caught up on the news, he got record. Jared got record this week, and then lost it because he accidentally like alt tabbed out of the game and restarted the game before it actually saved after episode 3. So it unfortunately, like, it doesn't count as record, but like 99% of the community kind of accepts it as like, yeah, that was definitely record, because even if he had waited an extra 9 seconds for the damn game to save, it would have still been record, or 8 seconds or whatever. So that just proves how good Jared has been running outside of Ladder League despite this bad performance. It was definitely like everyone expected Jared to win. Some disasters, it's going to happen, but I guess it just goes to show that anything can happen in these top 7 runner matches. And then as for me, I mean, what a horrible, horrible performance for me. I mean, maybe the time doesn't look that bad. Like 227.02 doesn't look that bad, because there's been other weak performances by top runners early on. Okay, I don't know why I pointed Evans 227, but there's been other weak performances by top runners early on as well. But personally, I thought this run, I didn't see my timer. I thought this was significantly worse than a 227 when I finished. It was just so many unnecessary deaths. My power up despawn and Theed lost me like 30 seconds off the bat. I lost 30 on like Maul. He's a lamb jump. What a dumb mistake that was. And I was just like so far behind off the beginning. Killed 3PO in Factory at the worst possible time in the lava room. Died, like, lost a full minute on Vader. Some really, really dumb time losses throughout this run. Played pretty terribly. And that's the thing is, for me personally, I guess you can get my own insight because I am, doing the recaps about my own play. Since normally we don't get to hear from the other runners about their play in these recaps, but for me, when I got the first 2 times of the tournament, I felt extremely rusty at this point. Like, I did not feel like I was good at the game outside of, just because I was getting not great times outside of the tournament. And then before this run, I got a run that was like easy 222 pace deep into the run. And I was feeling pretty good, pretty de-rusted. And then I performed that. Like, I don't know, I felt better about my runs going into this match than any of the other ones before, and I did the absolute worst I've ever done this tournament in that match. So I don't know what to say other than hopefully this was just a fluke in the road, and we'll turn it back up next week. And that's for the recap. Big shout outs to Frost again, once again, for getting the 3 seed. But let's move on to predictions. How far? We're 20 minutes in. We're making some good time on this one. As you know, only 39 minutes was the last recap. We're making good time, right? Only have 5 matches to talk about. Yeah, the ladder is getting a lot smaller, folks. We only have 15 people on the ladder now. Obviously, Zach Ginger Frost qualified, and then all the names in red are eliminated, as denoted by our lovely key down here. But we'll start with the bottom rung, which might be one of the most interesting matches of the week next week. Unfortunately, I'm not going to call this the match of the week as much as I wanted to. That will be for another match I mentioned, but Charizard, Twice Light Phantom, there's a lot to talk about these guys. First of all, Charizard really has been doing well off of the tournament. Like, outside of the tournament, has been lowering his PB, lowering his SOB. I think he graduated from the B team sheet recently. I think he's like the first graduate in a while. Congratulations, happy graduation, Charizard. But yeah, he does really, really well. And actually manages to get, like, I think his PB now is that a 32? I could be wrong, 232 or 33. But really, really strong, significantly better than where he started in the tournament. He's been improving fast, but then his results in the tournament haven't really been showing as much as those PBs have. His recent times 236. What was his week 1? 239, then 239. And obviously there's a whole episode 5 disaster with him, so you can't fault him too much. But once again, now he is in a situation rung 8, or it's not rung 8 anymore, bottom rung. It's a win or go home from week 4 all the way to week 8. So inconsistent performances like a 239 are just not going to cut it anymore. If you have one inconsistent performance, you're going to get out. Like, for the example of Core, Soda's a terrible example because he has an insane performance and still goes out, but just goes to show how good you need to play in this bottom rung to stay up. And he's going to have a really tough task because, once again, Twice Light, almost the exact same situation as Charizard, I feel like. His PB's down to a 32. He's playing really, really well outside the runs, but in these races, 239, 235 is good week 1, but 238, 239 recently, it just hasn't been adding up in the tournament, which I expect to turn around. But once again, between Charizard and Twice Light, one of them or both of them could just be getting out, and they're not going to have any time to, they don't have any time to make up for their, mistakes so far in just the poor races. So now it's do or die. And they're going up against a guy Phantom, who was in the same situation where his PB is now a 35, was a 35, and he wasn't performing in the tournament. And then he showed us this week in the loser's bracket with all the pressure on the line when Zoda's on insane pace. He pulls out a PB, stays alive, and Phantom's going to have some momentum going to this match. I would say Phantom is probably the bookie's last pick to win this match, but going in, he's got the momentum. Charizard and Twice Light with 2 weak performances going in. Phantom with a win. So I wouldn't count Phantom out in this match whatsoever. As for my predictions, oh my god, this is so tough to predict. I'm gonna go... This is so tough. This is such a good match. I can literally see any of them winning. I think less likely Phantom, but he just proved to us this week otherwise. Because he just got a time better than Twice Light and Charizard have gotten by a full minute all tournament. I'm gonna go Twice Light on this match. I'm gonna go Twice Light. I'm gonna believe in him this week. I didn't believe it. I believed in last week. It didn't turn out. I'm gonna believe in him this week. I think he's doing enough. I think he will continue to work offline. I know these other guys are gonna be doing that too. That's the thing. It's so tough. I think this is gonna be an incredible race. I can't believe I can't call this the match of the week. But I think Twice Light sneaks in, Charizard gets second, Phantom gets a close third. I really can't separate these guys because we've seen such a variety of results so far, and Phantom has just proven he's had the best result in the tournament so far and has done it most recently. So that's I'm not choosing Phantom. That's why I think it'll be close. I'll take Twice Light. I'm gonna take Twice Light. Okay, it's gonna be a really really good race, and I would not be surprised if I saw Charizard or Phantom also win. I'm gonna take Twice Light the 20 seed to survive, and stay in the bracket. Um, Nextly, Jablake, Garrison, Revelo. This is a little bit more of a straightforward like storyline of this match. Jablake should be ahead by multiple minutes come episodes 3, 5. So even like where he had just an absolute disaster run last week, um, it's still significantly better than Garrison. Well, actually, not significantly better than what Revelo put up, but still. Revelo would have to put up another monstrous performance to match something if Jablake were to get a 229 like he has in previous weeks. So, um, I'm definitely going to take Jablake to win this match. He's been really good. Obviously, the misstep last week is surprising, but I'm going to take him for sure here. Unfortunately for Jablake, at best he can get the 7 seed now, but I think he kind of expected it at this point anyways, that like, he's not really looking for a top 6 seed. So Jablake, I will say he wins this match, and we're going to have a really good rematch of last week, where this race was really tight all the way up until CCT when the lead changed between Garrison and Revelo, and this time it's a really important fight because loser goes to the bottom rung, and winner stays to fight another day above the bottom rung, away from the must-win situation, which is kind of the whole goal at this point. If you drop down to a couple rungs before the bottom, the whole goal is to stay out of the must-win situation for as long as possible, which unfortunately these 3 in the bottom are now in this must-win situation. I'm going to say for second place, I went with Garrison second last week over Revelo. This week I'm going Revelo second over Garrison. I was really impressed by Revelo's performance last week, and I think he will continue. I don't think even Garrison. I think Garrison could do really really well, but I think Revelo is doing really really well lately, and I think he keeps it up. I don't think he wins the race, but I think he moves up with Jablake. That's my prediction there. That'll be another phenomenal race, and just goes to show how these matches are just getting increasingly more important. Like back in week 1, it felt like some of these matches in the middle, like it doesn't really matter, but now it really matters because you want to stay out of this zone right here, because this zone is where if you lose, you go to the bottom rung. So it's kind of like a stay out of this zone as much as possible, and if you are, it's stay up as long as possible to get to avoid the bottom rung. So with that being said, Jablake and Revelo are my picks there. And we'll move on to Laser to Hamster Flup, which this will be a really interesting match. Unfortunately, this is kind of chalking up to be another one of those we fight for the win and then someone's going to be third. I think Flup, they've been doing really, really well this tournament. Obviously, 3-0 on promotions, when we get that right. And beating out Charizard the last second every single race. Except for the last one was pretty decisive in 5, but I think Flup is a little outmatched here. I think in this situation, Flup, yes, even if Flup gets like a 234 or 233, it's a crazy time, which I totally think he's capable of. I don't think it'll be close to enough against Laser or Hamster, who specifically, Hamster has been doing really, really well in PB attempts lately. I think he's got a 26 now. Boom. Out of the blue. Hamster is a 26. You best believe he's a top 8 competitor. And then Laser obviously putting up a really, really strong performance in the tournament match last week. So I think this will be a really close race between Laser and Hamster. I'm going to give the edge. You know what? This is weird because normally I'd say Hamster because of his 226, but I'm going to give the edge to Laser here just because of his performances in the tournament. Have been more impressive in the tournament setting than Hamster's. I will give Laser the win here. I think it's going to be a good race. Even though Hamster's gotten the better PB lately, I'm going to give the win here to Laser, Hamster second, Flup third. It's going to be a good match. Flup, once again, this is kind of like the situation Laser was in last week. Like, he's probably going down, but put together the best performance you can because, obviously, going down in this rung means bottom rung, unfortunately. So it's going to be really, really hard for Flup to avoid the bottom rung. That's why it's like almost weird that being in this, like if Flup was somehow here, which he can't be, it wasn't even possible for him to be there anyways. But if he was somehow there, it would have been so much better for him. But he's in a situation where it sucks, and 99% likely to go down to the bottom rung. But that's just unfortunately how the ladder works. We can't switch that format at this point. Anyways, moving on to rung 2, myself, EJP Man harass me. And obviously, as much as I'd like to say I'm the favorite, this is definitely no walk in the park, easy, like, oh yeah, I'll just play my game and win. Which, of course, could be the case, but literally, EJP Man put up a better time than me last week. And I can't say, like, oh, it's not going to happen again. Like, I personally believe it's not going to happen again, but disasters are unpredictable. And, a disaster from me and an insane run from EJP Man could tip the scales. I don't think there's, like, I don't believe that Harass Me has the abilities to beat me at the moment. If he were to, like, PB by 2 minutes, I still think I would beat the time, which would be a low 227. But there's absolutely no way I'm going to try. I'm not going to get close to a 227 this week. I guarantee you guys that. Not getting anywhere close to a 227 this week. But with that being said, EJP Man could have this, like, the peak PB performance again, and if I have a not so good run, it could be close. Obviously, I'm gonna take myself here though, because I'm confident I can get like a 224 in a tournament match. I think I can get a 223, and I think I get a PB in a tournament match. That's how bad my current PB is. And I mean, I recently have been significantly ahead of it, anyways. Hopefully tonight after the stream, I will get a PB or something like that, or something ahead of PB. But yeah, I still think I win the match. I think EJP Man has proven himself to be the front runner for the 8 seed. I think with last week's performance, he's proven himself to be the front runner. Honestly, Hamster might be second in that running over Jablonski right now because of his 226 lately. But we'll see. I think me and EJP Men go up. Harass Me will put up a valiant fight here. I think this will probably be his best match of the tournament so far. I think he might get a sub 230, but that won't be enough against myself and EJP Man. So I think me and EJP Man go up. Harass Me goes down, but once again, he has promoted himself 3 times to get to this point, so eventually he's going to get to a match where it's like, all right, it's probably a little bit too much, but come week 8, who knows what Harass Me's PB is going to be, and he might be in a match against someone like EJP Man for an 8 seed, and that would be a totally crazy match. And also shout out to Laser Trap, who's here in chat as well during the live performance. And yeah, finally we move on to, I really wanted to call this race of the week, but I couldn't because of this match right here. This is what I'm calling the race of the week. Wrong one. This is going to be, what did I do? Now I'm just shouting out people in chat because we're doing the ladder league predictions live. No, shout out to Laser Trap for being a great commentator. That's what the shout outs for. Been a great commentator so far during ladder league. But as I was saying, match of the week between Jared, Evan, Justin. This is going to be a really, really good match. Obviously, each one of them has proven, let's see, Jared, good time for Jared, good time for Justin, good time for Justin, insane time for Evan, week 2. They've all proven that they can do well in this tournament. They've all proven well on the leaderboards. This is going to be a really, really good match for 4 seed. It's so hard to pick between them. Like, Jared had a fluky last week, and I think he bounces back again. Like, after his week 1 performance, he bounced back. After a week 3 bad performance, I think he bounces back. But Evan's been really good too. He's been consistently good. Like, Justin had the bad week 2, but bounces back again week 3. It's so tough to pick this one. I think the bookie's favorite here is Jared. But I'm going to go on racing consistency, and he's been good for 2 weeks in a row, and without the Droid Factory soft lock, he won week 1. I'm going with Evan to get the 4 seed here. I think I'm going with the racing consistency, Evan to win the match. Second place will be really interesting because, once again, this can go either way. It's so tough. I'm going to take Jared for second place here, just because I cannot see Jared essentially get world record and then put him to lose this match. I cannot do that. So I'm gonna go Jared second. Justin, I'm sure will put up a great time in this match as well. Unfortunately, I think Justin goes down for himself, but he will be immediately back up. I can guarantee that. No, don't worry. I appreciate the distractions because I don't know. It's not even a distraction. I don't know why I'm saying that. But yeah, that will kind of sum it up for the recap. I did briefly mention Rafa's leading predictions. I'll get more in depth with predictions because the top 8 predictions are going to kind of come into play soon. I will say, for anyone who's been keeping up with Ladder League, just passively through either these videos or just occasionally on Twitch, we will have a week break before we see these matches. So do not expect a recap this next weekend. Expect it the weekend after, which will be like June 15th, I think, will be the next recap date. Maybe the 14th, depending on whenever the last match is in week 4. So we're going to take a week break, or it's literally on my screen right here, the 16th. The 16th. Expect it then. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back week 4.